I didn't believe her at first. I wish I had. The ICU lights hummed like tired insects. Cold tile under my shoes. The smell of antiseptic and rain-soaked coats. Machines breathed for strangers behind glass. Steady beeps. Stubborn life. Ava clutched my sleeve. Her nails dug crescents into my skin. "If they get him alone," she whispered, "he won't make it." I told her to breathe. I told her it would be fine. I was wrong. My name is Casey. This is what happened. This is how a quiet fire saved a life. Years earlier, a small town that looked harmless from a distance. White fences. Sunday silence. Rules that felt heavier up close. Jonah and Ava were kids trying to be people. Curious minds. Careful voices. They weren't allowed to date. They weren't allowed to want. They held hands behind a diner anyway. Someone saw. Someone told. The punishment was a wedding. A living room that smelled like old carpet. Vows handed to them like instructions. No romance. Just survival. They didn't promise forever. They promised not to drown. They made a plan. Small bills in hidden envelopes. A secret account in a town where no one knew their names. Whispers on a back porch, while crickets stitched the night together. At 20, they left before sunrise. A duffel. A box of paperbacks. A car with a rattling belt, and more hope than gas. That's when I met them. Second floor walk-up. Crooked stairs. They brought a sheet cake and borrowed courage. We ate cake with plastic forks at my counter. They told me they were safe now. They said it like a prayer they weren't sure would work. They divorced quietly. No fights. No broken plates. Just two people returning each other's names. "We were bent into a shape that didn't fit," Jonah said. "We're just trying to unbend." They stayed close anyway. Roommates, sometimes. Family, always. Jonah biked everywhere. Chapped knuckles. Chain grease on his jeans. Wind as a language he understood. Ava worked nights at a bakery. Warm light. Flower on her wrist like a bracelet. She learned to make mornings soft for strangers. There was peace. Not perfect. Not permanent. Enough to breathe. But the past kept their address. Letters with no return address. Envelopes that smelled like basement air. A symbol taped to a door that only Jonah recognized. Cars idling late with their lights off. Be still. Be quiet. Maybe it will pass. It didn't. One autumn evening, Jonah pulled a photo from his wallet. He and Ava at 16. Dust on their cheeks. An old pickup behind them like a promise that couldn't be kept. On the back, in neat, careful letters, "Do as you're told, and you'll be safe." He stared at the words for a long time. Then he folded the photo again. He put it back in his wallet like a thorn he couldn't remove. The accident was ordinary until it wasn't. Gray sky. A smear of rain on west-facing windows. He texted me a picture of the clouds. "Feels like a storm," he wrote. My favorite kind. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. A driver blew a stop sign. Metal. Glass. Sirens. I don't remember the road to the hospital. Only the doors sliding open like a mouth ready to swallow us whole. The ICU was a white forest of cables and screens. Jonah lay pale under hard light. His fingers twitched like they were still on handlebars. His eyes drifted like boats cut from their ropes. The doctor spoke a cautious language. Contusions. Swelling. Good signs. No promises. Ava stood by his bed like a lighthouse in a storm. If devotion had weight, it could have anchored him. Hours tightened into a knot we couldn't untie. The night thinned. The air stung. Then the elevator dinged. They walked out like a verdict. 4 men with the same jaw. A woman with papers and a stare that didn't blink. They asked security to remove us. Not loud. Just certain. "I'm his emergency contact," Ava said. "That doesn't matter," the woman answered. "He's ours." The words felt wrong in my mouth, even as I repeated them in my mind. Ours. As if a person were a chair you could claim. Ava turned to me, eyes wide with a fear that knew history. "They think pain fixes people," she whispered. "They think hurt makes you pure." I wanted to argue. I wanted to be right. I wasn't. Ellie, a nurse with moons inked on her wrist, pulled us aside. "I shouldn't say this," she murmured, "but they're pushing to transfer him. He isn't stable. If they wait for numbers to creep green, paper might win." Ava went very still. Not broken. Focused. Steel cooling into shape. She tied her hair back. She opened a notebook. The pages were neat. The handwriting steady. She made calls. She sent emails. She wrote reference numbers on her palm like coordinates out of a maze. She spoke about money that moved where it shouldn't. About rooms too crowded and hands too few. About children who didn't see school buses. About a way of doing things that broke people softly. She didn't scream. She didn't threaten. She asked for help. She told the truth. Then we waited. The family dozed in chairs, heads tilted, arms crossed like gates. The hallway hummed. A vending machine rattled. Ava stared at the ICU doors until her eyes watered. At 311 A.M., she whispered. If this works, he gets to choose. I squeezed her hand. I wasn't sure whose pulse I felt in our grip, hers or mine. A memory rose without asking. Jonah, at 19. A bus station that smelled like old coffee. A backpack that held more fear than clothes. He called Ava from a payphone. Tell me to keep going. Keep going, she said, and left her house and walked until she found him. They got on a bus with $3 and no plan. They left anyway. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's movement, in spite of it. Near sunrise, Ellie rushed out, breath fogging in the cold of the hallway. He's awake, she whispered. He asked for her. Ava moved like gravity let her go for just 1 second. Through the glass, I saw Jonah's eyes clear in slow focus. I saw his lips form a sentence that unlocked a door. They don't speak for me. The family froze. Paper lost its voice. Jonah signed forms with a trembling hand. Stay. He wrote the word, without writing the word. Ellie nodded. We exhaled. But pressure doesn't give up, because you breathe. Lawyers called. Phrases like, best interest floated like gnats. We swatted what we could. The hospital held the line. Then, the world outside the ICU started to turn. Calls went out that didn't come from us. Clipboards appeared where there had only been keys. Questions lined up like streetlights down a long road. The flagship business stumbled. Numbers didn't add right when you looked closely. Doors opened to inspections. Corners that had been cut had nowhere to hide. The childcare operation closed. Too many little bodies. Not enough grown eyes. Silence in those rooms finally had room. 2 girls packed backpacks and waited for a bus for the first time. They looked like hope, remembered its shoes. Nights got quieter. Unknown numbers, still called. The messages were loud. They were also less certain. You could hear it under the anger. The sound of something ending. Nora, my coworker, pulled public records over lunch breaks. Filing dates. Inspection notes. Old complaints that never grew teeth. Laid end to end. They spelled a story that had always been there. Ava didn't invent a crack. She pointed until someone looked. Truth is patient like that. And relentless. Jonah healed in slow circles. The left hand trembled when he was tired. He learned to hold coffee with both hands. And laugh about it when the cup rattled. He walked the bike path with Ava. Then with me. Then alone. The first time he wrote again, he texted a photo. Helmet crooked. Eyes bright. Still here, he wrote. I put my phone down and breathed like I was learning how. Ava changed too. The fire that had roared turned into a steady pilot light. She enrolled in night classes, crisis intervention. I want to be the person I needed, she said. Her voice didn't shake. I changed. The world tugged at a thread inside me and unraveled an old belief. I used to think kindness meant going quiet. Making room. Stepping back. Now I know kindness sometimes means drawing a line in ink. Saying no without apology. Letting consequences keep people safe. We didn't get apologies. We stopped waiting for them. Forgiveness didn't feel like the lesson. Safety did. On the anniversary of the accident, the 3 of us stood on the footbridge over the river. Water wrote and rewrote itself below. A gray heron balanced on one leg like a patient thought. Jonah flexed his left hand and grinned at the bike trail. Ava tilted her face to the wind, storm-loving as always. Nora joined us with paper cups of cocoa and a no news is good news smile. Escape isn't running, Ava said softly. It's building a life that can't be taken. I asked if she regretted any of it. The calls, the sleepless night, the fear she swallowed to make room for courage. Not one breath, she said. Truth is heavy. But when you carry it, it carries you. Jonah bumped her shoulder. She saved my life, he said. Not by fighting them. By making it impossible for them to pull me back. We watched the water. None of us spoke. Peace doesn't need narration. People still ask what revenge looked like. They expect flames. They expect shouting. It looked like forms filled out right the first time. Like a closed sign where harm used to clock in. Like a school bus stopping outside a house that finally learned mornings. Like a steady voice on a phone line saying, "Here is what I saw." Sometimes revenge is a match. Sometimes it's a mirror. Sometimes it's just the truth. Louder than your fear. There were small moments that mattered more than the big ones. A night when envelopes came again. Jonah laid them on my table. We logged, scanned, stored. No shaking. No spirals. Just a system. A morning when thunder rolled, and Ava didn't flinch. She smiled instead. Sounds like someone saying what I'm not afraid to say anymore. An afternoon when Ellie passed in the grocery store. No scrubs. Just a cart and a wave. "Good to see you," she said, and meant it. A Friday when Nora brought board games and we argued about rules. In the soft way friends do, when they know the real battles are already won. A text from Jonah on a windy Tuesday. A photo of the river in winter. "Still here," he wrote again. "It's my favorite kind of day." The family's messages faded like old paint. The businesses stayed shut. Some fines were paid. Some classes were taken. Some names no longer opened doors like magic words. The younger girls learned bus routes and library hours. They started using inside voices because outside felt safe. One of them drew a picture of a bike with stars around it. I kept a copy on my fridge. We learned to live without alarms in our chests. It took time. It took practice. It took saying, "We're okay," and believing it enough to make it true. I think about the first night sometimes. The humming lights. The double doors. Ava's grip on my sleeve. My foolish assurance. I think about how belief changes shape. How you can be certain and wrong in the same breath. How grace sounds like. I think about paper shields. About signatures that mean I choose. About lines that keep the wolves outside and the warmth inside. I think about Jonah's sentence. They don't speak for me. And how a whole future walked in behind it. We didn't become heroes. We became steady. It's not as shiny. It lasts longer. Jonah rides when the sky looks like torn silk. He carries a small tool roll and a bigger smile. Strangers nod at him on the path. He nods back like a person who earned a morning. Ava studies late and keeps index cards in a rainbow stack. Grounding techniques. Safety plans. Numbers that help. Her kitchen timer dings and she takes cookies out for neighbors. Like warmth can be baked and shared. Nora says, "Documentation is love." And we all laugh. Because it's true and a little ridiculous. She labels file folders in neat black letters and brings extra pens. Everyone needs a Nora. Everyone. I learned to say no faster. I learned to ask for help sooner. I learned to tell the truth to myself first. Kindness with a backbone. That's the lesson the year taught me. That and this. The quiet kind of brave lasts the longest. On a late summer evening, we return to the footbridge. The river is low. Rocks cough through the surface. The air tastes like cut grass and something ending well. A kid rides past on a tiny bike, streamers flashing. His dad trots behind, hand hovering a breath from the seat. Ava nudges me. "Look," she whispers. Trust looks like that. We stand in the gold light until the mosquitoes find us. We don't rush. We've done enough of that. Jonah pockets a smooth stone. "For balance," he says, half smiling. I don't ask what he means. Some meanings are better carried than explained. We walk home slow. Streetlights blink on in a row. Porches yawn into evening. Somewhere, a neighbor waters soft pink flowers and hums off-key. I hum along in my head. It feels like belonging. When people ask why Ava burned their lives down, I correct them gently. She didn't burn a life. She burned a cage. There's a difference. And what rose after wasn't ashes and noise. It was a room big enough to exhale in. A cup held steady with two hands. A bike leaning against a railing. Waiting for morning. I keep the first photo Jonah sent after the accident saved on my phone. Helmet, crooked. Sky like bruised silver. Smile wide enough to be a sunrise. Sometimes I look at it when I forget who we are now. Sometimes I send it back to him with no caption. He replies the same way every time. Still here. That's the whole story, really. Not the pain. Not the almosts. Not the loud, ugly parts. Still here. Because someone told the truth, louder than her fear. Because paperwork can be a sword, if you hold it steady. Because kindness with a spine doesn't back down. Because when the elevator dinged, and the past walked out like a verdict, a woman with flower scars on her wrists tied back her hair, made a list, and chose the future. I didn't believe her at first. I do now. And if you need the shortest version of what changed in me, it's this. Safety isn't silence. Safety is a clear voice. Safety is a boundary. Safety is a hand that holds on until you can stand on your own. Ava didn't set a fire for revenge. She lit a lantern for the way out. We followed it. We found our way. We kept going. Still here. Still ours. Finally free.